Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. If you'll please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This special meeting of the Board of Trustees is now called to order. The time is 5:35. Our first item is our Workshop A, presentation of fiscal year 2019-2020 revenue estimates and preliminary budget. We do have a speaker on this item that I'll allow to speak first, Mr. Reza. We greatly appreciate those individuals who have requested to speak to the board in regard to a specific agenda item. We're bound by certain time constraints in order to cover all the items on the agenda and therefore must limit presentations to 5 minutes. Please respect the rights of others in your presentation. By law, the board cannot take action upon or discuss any item which is not posted on tonight's agenda, but we will give all presentations our serious consideration. And thank you. Our speaker is Deborah Herbert. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, President Nájera, members of the board, and Dr. Espinosa. My name is Deborah Herbert, and I'm the Vice President of the Socorro Education Association. As you know, the state of Texas has just passed a bill to increase teachers' salaries with a focus on, quote, prioritizing differentiated compensation for classroom teachers with more than 5 years of experience, end quote. Socorro is proposing to take the state money to fund a 5% raise for all SISD employees, but not necessarily focusing on the percentage on those teachers with more than 5 years of experience. Please don't misunderstand me. Every single district employee deserves a raise. For years, those of us that have been in the district have been loyal to Socorro and have had our raises based on the midpoint of the salary scale. I understand that things will be figured the same way this time around. However, this time, 30% of the basic gain allotment from the state is supposed to go to those teachers with more than 5 years experience. When we look at those numbers, however, teachers with this experience will make only $250 a year more than their counterparts of extra money a year, more than their counterparts in SISD, and that's a mere $20.83 a month. The state said that the bulk of the money is supposed to go to those teachers with more than 5 years of experience. $20.83 a month does not sound like a bulk of the money. I ask that you please consider how you will vote to allocate these funds to reward the loyalty of Socorro ISD teachers. I ask that you do two things. Please consider the 5% raise based on salaries for years of teaching experience instead of basing it on the midpoint. The raise that's based on the midpoint actually gives more experienced teachers less than a 5% raise of their current salary. Or if you decide to vote and base the raise on the midpoint, please consider paying the loyal experienced teachers what they deserve, which is more than the $20.83 a month. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Reza.
Yeah, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Tonight will be the last presentation that we'll do other than the public hearing that's required by state law concerning the budget and the proposed tax rate. So what we'll do is really quickly go over what the legislature finally adopted. We talked about the House bill, we talked about the Senate's version of the House bill, we'll talk about what was actually adopted. We'll look at our updated revenues for the general fund, debt service, and the child nutrition program. We'll look at the budgets for the general fund, child nutrition, debt service, and we'll also review the public notice that will show the proposed tax rate for the following fiscal year for your review. So with respect to what was actually approved by the legislature, quickly, the basic allotment did go up to $6,160. That's an increase of $1,020 over the basic allotment for the current year of $5,140. With respect to teacher salaries, the law says that in the year when the basic allotment increases, the district must use 30% of the gain in the foundation school program on a per ADA basis to compensate for full-time non-administrative staff as follows. 75% of that amount, of the 30%, must be for teachers, nurses, librarians, which is prioritize differentiation compensation for classroom teachers for more than 5 years. What does that mean? We really don't know. We have a proposal here. We'll go over that later. For the remaining 25% would go to other employees, and compensation that includes increase in insurance premiums would be considered as part of that 30%. Other changes in the law states with respect to pre-kindergarten, districts must offer a full-day pre-kindergarten eligible to all 4-year-olds. The second half of the day will not be compensated by the state, but districts are allowed 2 3-year waivers if available. But prior to seeking the waiver, the districts must look for must show lack of space or potential reduced enrollment. Prior to adding classrooms, a district must consider certain outside providers. There's also a new allotment, the early education allotment, that's designed to provide funding for that second half of the full-day pre-kindergarten class. And new allotments include the dual language, dyslexia, teacher incentive, and fee reimbursement for certain college preparatory exams and CTE examination exams. So with respect to the special populations, the expenditure requirements are now 55%. That's different. Before they were staggered. So 55% for bilingual, 55% for CTE education. Keep in mind now that classes in the grades 7 through 8 are also included for funding. There's also a new allotment for college, career, and military readiness, and 55% of that amount must be spent directly on that program. The high school allotment and the gifted and talented allotment have been repealed. Compensatory education, again, we must spend 55% for these students that are either economically disadvantaged or educationally disadvantaged. We're getting away from using free and reduced lunch applications as the basis for the funding. What the state is now requiring is that these groups be defined or categorized into 4 census blocks, and those blocks are identified by those individuals who are have a median household income, average educational attainment, percentage of single-parent households, and rate of ownership. So TA is going to determine how many of our students are identified in each one of those groups, and it's going to take a while. So just keep in mind that this is part of the bill where it's going to take months for us to figure out exactly how it's going to affect our funding. This is one of those particular areas. Also, with respect to a tax ratification election, the state's now requiring that the Board of Trustees must contract and have an efficiency study should we decide to have an election and ask the voters to approve one. District may but does not have to use an audit firm to perform the efficiency study. And also the firm must follow the guidelines adopted by the Legislative Budget Board. With respect to calculation of Tier 1 funding, the local share will be based on the maximum Tier 1 tax rate that's applied for current year values set by the comptrollers. And then beginning 2021, the maximum Tier 1 tax rate will depend on the district's rate of property growth value. That's part of that 2.5% valuation limit. Finally, the cost of education index has been repealed, so it affects the calculation of the WADA as well as the statutory minimum calculation. So with respect to our revenue estimates, this is what we're using to determine what we think we're going to earn. Our preliminary values, we're looking at a 6.52% increase in our values, and that impacts our tax collections. We have a projected taxable value of $10.3 billion. We've adjusted our TRS on behalf revenue to match our expenditures. Our projected average daily attendance increase we're projecting is 0.5% to 43,573. And our weighted average daily attendance projection increase is going to be 0.59% to just a little under 60,000. And then our comptroller's values are set at $10.2 billion. So with respect to revenues for the general fund, we're looking at $408 million in general fund revenue. That's a 7.85% increase, primarily in either the values increases and as well as in state funding. With respect to what we're projecting with respect to the tax rate, we're looking at an increase of about maybe almost $27 million in state revenues. Now, keep in mind that based on our current budget, which is, or we've already included in our budget, our estimated, compensation proposal, we're looking at use of fund balance of $13.3 million to balance the budget. With respect to child nutrition program revenues, we're looking at $31.9 million in revenues. That's a 6.62% increase. Again, primarily increases in the meals that we're serving because we're adding a school. And so we're looking at $1.7 million increase in our federal revenue because this is a federal program. So again, we're looking at using about $640,000 of fund balance to balance the budget. And then in debt service, we're looking at an increase there of about 8.5% or $4.8 million. And again, that's because of the fact that we just issued an additional $150 million of the $448.5 million bond program. So we've got to increase our debt service to service the issuance of those funds. Keep in mind that we have one more issuance next year. We have $98.5 million of funds remaining to issue. So keep in mind that we'll probably increase our debt service budget the following year to accommodate that final issuance. And after next year, we would issue the full $448.5 million in bonds. Okay, so what's in our budget? As mentioned, what we have in our budget is what we're going to recommend today. It's a commensurate compensation proposal. We've also included additional instructional positions for projected growth, and additional positions for special education program, funding to fully staff Cactus Trails Elementary School, additional salaries, textbooks, and transportation costs for the early college high schools at Pebble Hills, El Dorado, and Eastlake High School, funding to provide laptops for the incoming freshman class at all our comprehensive high schools, funding for the transitions that we're going to do with respect to Antoine and PDN, the purchase of 20 school buses, and additional utilities because of the new buildings that we're adding. So a couple of things to consider as we move forward after the adoption of this budget is the fact that charter schools, that's something we have to look at. We have more charter schools that are going to be coming into our school district in the next 2 to 3 years. We're looking at probably about 3 to 4 schools being opened up within 3 to 4 years. So we have to look at that because that impacts our funding for the future. With respect to House Bill 3, expect probably some tax compression and reduction in our tax rate next year, about 1 to 2 pennies. And finally, we need to keep in mind that 2 years from now, we're going to open up a combo school as well as the new SAC. That's going to require additional personnel and funding for supplies. Now, what's not in our budget is additional position requests for staffing as well as stipend review changes. We're going to adopt our budget. If we haven't received the information with respect to stipend changes, we'll amend that budget after it's completed, subject to the board's approval. So this is our budget that we're asking you to approve on the 17th of June. We'll have a public hearing. We'll go over this again for the public. We're going to publish the notice, and we'll go over that notice in a little while. But you're looking at a total budget of $515 million. The $421 million for the operating budget, the general fund, $32.6 million for the child nutrition program, and $61 million for our debt service. Remember, when you adopt the budget, as you're required to do so, prior to the end of June, you will adopt it by the fund and the function. Now, with respect to House Bill 3, it does provide us some flexibility with respect to the tax rate that we can propose. The rollback rate, what we used to call the rollback rate, it's now called the voter approval rate, is 97 cents, and this is how we're calculating this. The state allows 93 cents and the larger of either calculation A or 4 cents. So we're adding 4 cents, so our rollback rate is 97 cents. Anything above that requires a tax ratification election. So having said that, just want to show you that right now we're at 98.1640 in our maintenance and operations. We're going to have a small reduction of 1.2 cents so that our M&O tax rate is going to be 97 cents. You'll see our interest and sinking fund is the same as it was last year. So the rollback rate, what we call the voter approval rate now, that's the language, is $1.368954. So what's the impact? This is what we're going to publish on Thursday on the El Paso Times and the West Texas Courier. As you can see that the average taxable value has gone up from $112,000 to $117,000. Our tax rate's going to go down. That's required by House Bill 3 to $1.36, a little over $0.02. So what you're looking at is an increase in the property tax levy of about $55. But that'll be the rollback rate. That's what we're going to publish. Also keep in mind that you have a copy of the notice in the back of that handout after the questions page. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to call me. I'll go over the actual document. But again, as required by law, we have to publish a notice that says that we're going to discuss the budget, we're going to discuss the proposed tax rate. It provides information on the percentage increase for the general fund and the debt service. It provides information, as I just showed, on property values, and as well as information on growth in different types of the property of the district. So we will conduct the public hearing and ask you to adopt the budget at that time. In August, we will publish the notice again so we can discuss the adoption of the tax rate. So that's it. Are there any questions with respect to the budget that stands right now? So just keep in mind the budget, we're giving you that information, includes what we're going to propose tonight. So at the current time, we're looking at about $13.3 million use of fund balance to balance the budget. Now, the last couple of years, no, go ahead.
Are there any questions? No. Go ahead, Mr. Reza.
Just last couple of years, we've used fund balance to balance the budget. So it's about $10 million the last 2 years. And we haven't really ended up with a deficit of $10 million at the end of the fiscal year. So we budget conservatively to make sure that we meet our numbers on the revenue side, and we look at it. It doesn't mean we're going to end up with that kind of deficit, so to speak.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reza. Item number 4 is Board of Trustees business. It's local orientation session for the new board members, which will be conducted by Dr. Espinosa, myself, and Cabinet. Is it not going to be up? You start.
Okay, thank you, President Nahara, members of the board. This is a mandatory new board member orientation, and myself, along as Ms. Nahara said herself, and also cabinet members, will go up to the podium and discuss the roles and responsibilities that's under their guidance. So we'll go ahead and begin. It's about our school district. A lot of this is you all know already. You know, we are Team SISD, team of 8 board, which is the board members and the superintendent, myself, superintendent's cabinet. I think we have 9, 10 members on our cabinet. Each cabinet member, which you'll hear from here in a little bit, has a huge, tremendous amount of responsibilities under their guidance and under their leadership. But also Team SISD are amazing parents, students, employees, and also our entire community, which has been supportive of different initiatives, different happenings here in Socorro ISD. And you'll also hear from legal counsel, Mr. Steve Blanco. You'll hear from him in a little bit. He has about 3 slides that he'll cover some of his roles and responsibilities that's under Mr. Blanco. So, Ms. Nahara.
Under our roles and responsibilities, Ms. Claudia has given y'all a copy of the training that y'all are required to have, but it is divided into 4 tiers. Tier 1 is local orientation, which we're conducting now, and the orientation to the Texas Education Code, which will be provided through our Education Service Center. You are required to have those within 120 days of being sworn in. Tier 2 is our team building, which is required yearly, and for it to count as team building, the entire team has to be there. And we already have that scheduled for July 15th. Tier 3 is your additional based on assessed needs. As a first-year board member, you're required to have 10 hours your first year, and that includes your Public Information Act, your all of the required by the Texas Education Code. And a lot of that you will receive next week while we're at the TASB Summer Leadership Institute. That will be covered. After your first year on the board, Tier 3 moves to 5 hours. So total, after your first year on the board, you have to have 8 hours. Tier 4 is new. It started last year, that every other year we have to have 3 hours of training that is focused on data assessment and student achievement. Do y'all have any questions about your training?
Or about that slide? No one?
Okay.
All right. Next slide. And y'all are aware of some of the accolades that our district has achieved in the last several years. I'm not going to go over every single one, but we're real proud of this one right here. All of them, obviously, and these are just some. There's so many, but just got one slide. of our Mission Early College High School. This is the second time that it's been recognized as a national blue ribbon school in the state of Texas. You know, there's thousands of schools. There's over 1,200 school districts, and in those districts, over thousands of schools. And I believe there's 26, Ms. Crozet, blue ribbon schools that were identified. I believe it was, 26 schools in the state of Texas were identified as a national blue ribbon school, and Mission Early College High School is one of them, one of two here in the area. The other one is in Canotillo ISD, their early college high school. So we're real proud of our students and our staff at Mission Early College High School. But also, this one here is TA Post-Secondary Readiness Distinction. You know, and to make it as simple as possible, that looks at how our students are performing in grades 3 through high school, grades 3 through 12th through our high school, and EOC testing and also STAR testing. It looks at graduation rate. It looks at ACT, SAT student performance, participation, and then they put all this into a formula, and then it'll let you know in the state of Texas, congratulations, you either earned a post-secondary readiness distinction or you did not earn the post-secondary readiness distinction. And I'm proud to say that Socorro ISD was the largest school district in the state of Texas to earn the post-secondary readiness distinction. People across the state, you know, have taken notice. Like, well, how were y'all able to attain and earn that distinction? You know, and it starts at the pre-K level, making sure our students are reading on grade level by 3rd grade. But it's something that we're proud of, the only school district in the region, obviously, but the largest school district in the state of Texas to earn those post-secondary readiness distinction. Also, and you heard from him earlier, Mr. Tony Ressa, and there's a couple of accolades here for under the finance system. For example, this one right here says a superior rating in the school finance integrity rating system of Texas by our finance team. Mr. Ressa, Ms. Olson, and that entire team, they do a fabulous job of making sure that our finances in our school district are being spent responsibly. We do get audited every year by the auditors, and every year our Dynamite finance team does an outstanding job. And I'm seeing this one, and I know he's going to give me a hard time if I don't say his name. Mr. Hector Reyna, the Chief Technology Officer. He was recognized as the Chief Technology Officer of the Year. So congratulations. And, you know, Mr. Reyna and is it, yes. You know, about six years ago, our technology team was not communicating with our academics team, and now they're in the same room having conversations, so they both know what the right hand knows what the left hand's doing, the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. So obviously it's not only Mr. Reyna, but his entire team. He'll be the first to tell you that with all the technology initiatives, and you heard earlier, you know, laptops, you know, for every single child, which costs money, you know, but we think that it's valuable for our students. So those are just some of the accolades up there.
Mr. Gunda?
So what you're saying, Soup, is if he can't fix it, nobody can?
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
That's it.
Just wanted to know.
You know, we have our amazing, you know, I'll go one more right here, National School Counselor of the Year finalist, Ms. Christina Nunez. There's also, we have another counselor, our amazing counselor from Helen Ball Elementary, Ms. Washington, you know, so amazing individuals on Team SI. So there's just a few of the accolades that you see up there. Anyway, next slide. This kind of gives you an idea of our organizational chart. We have our 2 auditors, and you'll be hearing from one of our auditors here in a little while. He's got a slide, Mr. Joe San Miguel, who's been with the district for quite a while, does a fabulous job. Ms. Marta Carmona as well. She's under it's auditing with the curriculum and instruction. You have the executive assistants, there you have the cabinet members here and their different responsibilities. And if you look, to be honest with you, if you look at this cabinet, you compare it to other districts that are our size, we have a lot more on our plate. Other districts, you look at their organization chart, they have more assistant superintendents to supervise schools. Here, for example, we got one superintendent who has about, Ms. Zapata Farmer, what, 23 23 schools under her. Ms. Retan has about 15. You know, Ms. Crocez, all the high schools. You add up all those high school students. Our amazing high school students, it's over 10,000 students, correct? So it's like the size of some districts. So it's a lot on their plate, you know, and you look at some other districts, they have a lot more support. I wish we could have another one or maybe two more, you know, but we understand that we put all of our emphasis at our different campuses and our different departments. You know, they draw 'em, but they do a heck of a job, our awesome cabinet. So that's the organizational chart. Next slide. Oh, this is Mr. Blanco. You'll hear now from with our attorney, our legal counsel, Mr. Blanco, who's been with us now about 5 years or so. But I'll let him cover the next 3 slides, Mr. Blanco.
Thank you, Dr. Espinosa. I actually think it's been going on 6 years now.
Oh, 6 years.
Time flies. Good evening. Thank you again, Board President Nahara, members of the board, Steve Blanco, along with my firm, Blanco, Ordonez, Mata, and Wexler. And we provide the general counsel services to the school district. We have a couple of slides. I want to thank Ms. Cedillo and the rest of the administration for helping me prepare these and get these ready for tonight. Basic structure, and then I'm going to go over some specific items. Obviously, the chain of command is important. Most of our daily interaction is either with the superintendent and his staff through the board president, and we also deal directly, it can be daily to weekly to every other week, with the members of the cabinet in the various areas that we represent the district in that I'll cover in just a second. We're also available, obviously, to the board. Our representation and our line of work is for the entity as a whole, as a district. We don't represent any single individual. We represent you in your official capacity and your roles as board members. So obviously, if you have a question regarding any of the school district operations, any issue that might concern you regarding education law, operations under Texas Public Schools, you can call us. Ms. Cedillo has all of our contact information, and she knows how to track me down if I happen not to be in the office. I'm pretty good about getting back to folks, so if you have questions, you can call on us. Next one. Here's the scope of our services. It's kind of broken down into broad areas first: the general services, personnel, school finance, and special education. And with respect to the general area, that's really just the advice that we would give to the board on managing the district overall. There are a couple of areas that are important that deal with administration and the board. Those are the Public Information Law and the Texas Open Meetings Act. You're going to get training specific to that, but oftentimes there will be questions about what is disclosed to the public. Pretty much the rule is everything that a public entity does is considered public information. There are some limited exceptions for specific areas like personnel, certain types of contracts, certain real estate. And I think with the new board members, you've already had some experience with that at the last meeting. We've had some discussions in closed session on the limited areas. We also obviously attend the vast majority of the board meetings. We don't always attend workshops, but we will when necessary. We give general legal advice, and we draft and review contracts. There are specific contracts we'll talk about in a second. And the other big area of representation, and one that is very involved, is in the personnel area. The district employs a lot of people. Socorro ISD is one of the largest single employers in the county of El Paso. We handle all of the issues regarding employees. Now, I know it sounds negative because we say represent school district in employment litigation. Knock on wood, thankfully, there is very little of that in Socorro ISD. I think the staff, the administration, and the employees generally work very well together. We give advice in the area of personnel, compliance with state and federal law, all forms of laws from the EEOC level, Department of Labor, TEA, State Board of Educator certification. We also draft and review employment contracts. All the contracts that come out every year that your teachers, counselors, librarians, and staff will get, we update them, we review them, we make sure that they're compliant with the current state of the law. We also will assist in the unfortunate event that there is the necessity of a suspension, some type of discipline, or some type of termination. The other large area we work on is school finance. Now, we don't do that on our own. When there's going to be a bond election, or there's going to be a bond issuance, the district will engage specific special bond counsel. In the past, that's been the Norton Rose Fulbright law firm, but we're involved in that. We helped a great deal with the administration in the last bond election. That's probably the biggest area of our compliance when it comes to school finance, is making sure that when the district is seeking to go out for funding and handling a bond election, that it's done in accordance with law. There are a lot of different rules that apply when you're seeking financing. With respect to special education, Mr. Ortega and his department have a very good handle on that area, and they actually have an engagement with a separate law firm that specializes in that area. We're involved with special education only when general legal advice is necessary, or they need somebody as a backup here locally for that. But you have a separate law firm that does that on a special, and I know that Ms. Rodriguez is familiar with them as well. Next one. These are the more specific areas of work that we do. For example, with respect to litigation and administrative proceedings, those are going to be matters that involve usually employees. Occasionally they'll involve other state regulatory agencies, but consider Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Texas Education Agency, the State Board of Educator Certification. I've already mentioned those. We also help and represent the district when we're dealing with independent hearing examiners before the Texas Education Agency. That might be an appeal of a teacher discipline, a teacher contract issue, a teacher termination issue. We obviously handle all student discipline hearings, grievances, parent complaints, issues involving injuries to students. There might be issues involving special education issues with students that turn to litigation that we'll handle. And we obviously represent the district and the administration in grievances that are brought before the board. Again, those are very rare, and we will see those only on an occasional basis. The other large area of work that we do that's very specific is for the acquisition of school sites and construction. The work that you do to build out the infrastructure of the district, to acquire property, to build schools. We obviously don't do that on our own. Mr. Ironton and his team, they work hand in hand with us to make sure that we are gathering, bidding correctly, securing the right vendors for different projects, and we also will also engage the services of specialized brokers. For example, in the acquisition of real property, you've seen them. We had a CBRE, Richard Ellis, in at the last meeting to go over some property acquisition with you. We have help in those areas. We draft all the contracts, the AIA specific forms, the agreements that we're using for architects, contractors, and in the event that we use a construction manager or a hard bid document. And then the final area that kind of relates to that, along with Mr. Garcia and his team, we help with purchasing laws and compliance. These last two items, the purchasing, acquisition, drafting of documents, that's something that the board rarely will ever see. It's kind of the behind-the-scenes regular advice work, with the exception of the board president having to review the documents and sign them. You won't see a lot of that. You'll see a lot of that on the consent agenda for approval, but there's a lot of work behind that that goes into that, and we don't do it on our own. The administrative staff in this area, Mr. Garcia's staff, work hand in hand with us. Are there any questions?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Blanco.
Thank you, Mr. Blanco. 6 years, Mr. Blanco, 6. All right. Next, here's our vision and mission statement for our school district. Tomorrow's Leaders Learn Today. And our mission, you know, the mission of SISD is to optimize our students' academic, artistic, and also athletic and interpersonal skills. Then we also have our strategic direction that was developed about 5-6 years ago, and this was developed with input from all of our stakeholders here in SISD. What they wanted, you know, we have lots of data that we collected to come up with these strategic directions. And this is what our parents, our students, our employees wanted. They wanted, number one, our top priority is safe and supportive learning environment, college and career readiness. They want to make sure that our students are receiving the academic rigor that they need to be successful, but they also wanted a highly qualified, effective faculty and staff, hiring the best librarians, hiring the best counselors, teachers, custodians, you know, the entire team, and that's something that our school district does fairly well. And like I said, if you look at the results, which you'll see here in a little bit, they speak for themselves. But also our community, they wanted to be involved. Our parents wanted to be involved, so that partnership with our community. And number 5, accountability for all, making sure that we hold ourselves accountable when something is not correct or something's not performing up to standard or maybe subpar. We address it as you heard Mr. Blanco stated in his presentation, that they help us out many times with litigations when there's different cases. That's just one small example of how we don't turn the other way. We don't sweep things under the rug, and I think our track record for accountability for all, you know, speaks for itself. So those are our 5 strategic directions. Now, a little bit about our school districts. Many of y'all know these numbers here. We have 49 schools. 49 is Cactus Trail Elementary. That's going to be opening up here in 2 months when school starts again. We have our amazing 6 comprehensive high schools. We also have our, as I said, talked about earlier, Mission Early Cottage High School, our middle schools, pre-K, our elementary schools, and our 4 specialty campuses. And we passed a bond in November of 2017, and we're going to be looking to open up 2 schools, an elementary and a middle school in the East Lake area, not too far from this building actually, to help out Inzer, to help out Horizon Heights, to help out Sioux Shook Elementary, because those schools are already at capacity. So 49 schools currently in our school district, and just to kind of give you an idea, and I touched on it earlier, there's over 1,200 school districts in the state of Texas, and Socorro ISD is the 22nd largest school district in the state of Texas, the 22nd largest schoal district. We have about 47,000 students in our school district. We continue to grow, but you know, as I don't know who mentioned, somebody mentioned it was Ms. Nahid or maybe myself. Oh no, Mr. Ressa mentioned it earlier. You know, we have charters moving in, and I think we're doing a good job of hanging on to our students, but we have lost students, not like some other cities throughout the state of Texas. You know, we're trying hard, but every year it's going to be a challenge, and something that Mr. Ressa didn't mention, many of the people in the audience know, that there's two charter schools, IDEA charter schools, one at the Rio Vista Street by Sanchez and Esconterias and Socorro High School. Then we also have the other IDEA school over here by Edgemere, off of Edgemere, close to Pebble Hills High School. And what Mr. Ressa didn't mention is that, from what I understand, and Mr. Ianton, you can stop me if I'm wrong, it is our understanding that Harmony has bought some land for Joe Battle and the Vista del Sol area. So that's another, another competition. This is, education now. We're in the, with the school choice, we're going to continue to fight, but they're going to keep coming, and we're just going to have to do a great job of continuing to convince our parents, educate our parents. So I wanted to throw that out there, that there's challenges coming down the road of hanging on to our students, but I think we'll do a pretty good job of doing that. Next slide. This kind of gives you from the TAPER report. We have 47. I'm sorry, the demographic report. 47,000 students. I'll highlight. We do have our right here. Where is it at? 71% economically disadvantaged students. Our highest, 91.5. This number right there is the highest graduation rate in the history of Socorro ISD. So it's something that we are real proud of. And just so many efforts, efforts like Walk for Success, when administrators, they come in on a Saturday, board members, I think it's in February, I believe, that we come in and we go knock on doors of students, I'm sorry, not February, October, when students who have not returned, hey, we don't give up on our students. We're going to go check out their house. We're going to go look under rocks, outhouses, houses, places, everywhere, to make sure to convince them and educate and say, hey, you got to come back. So that number right there, there's 91.5, as I said, is the highest ever, and it's just because of all the different efforts and not giving up on our students here in SISD. Last weekend, 3,419 graduates. Actually, that was last year. That number now is over 3,500 graduates. So those are some numbers as far as demographics. Also, as everyone knows, TEA, they came out with a new accountability rating. No longer was it exemplary, recognized, or met standards, or didn't meet it. Now they have the letter A through F, and we're proud, that we earned a B last year. We earned
What kind of B?
a high B. Is it high B? It's an 88 that we earned. That's an 88. When you compare us to some of the other districts here in El Paso, we were the second highest. Canotillo, they earned, congratulations to Canotillo. They earned an A of 91, but they didn't earn this post-secondary readiness distinction like Socorro ISD did, by the way. So just got to throw that in there. Canotillo is a great district, but proud of our accountability rating at our different campuses. So that's our academic achievement. Here you have when you overall #1 student performance. When you compare us to when you add up all the scores from elementary to high school, here's how we stand, and compared to the state here and to the region as well. And here you have Socorro ISD. Total, now that should say total employees. When you add up our part-time employees, it's not full-time employees, it's total employees, full-time and part-time. It adds up to over 7,090 employees in Socorro ISD, include our substitute teachers, because they're just as part of this team as our regular teachers, because if a teacher's out, the substitute teachers need to continue moving the ball forward. So we have over 7,000 employees when you count our part-timers and our temporary personnel as well. Next slide, administrative services. This is Dr. Graham. Dr. Graham, if you can go to the podium. And Dr. Graham is our interim. Ms. Macias is out. So Dr. Graham is the interim, so she'll talk about the administrative services.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, and guests. Administrative services handles the fun stuff in the district. We have, as you can see, anything having to do with the usage and rental of our facilities, the performing arts, the fine arts, athletics, aquatics, and the after-school popular program known as VESP. We also handle all the transportation issues other than driving the buses. We just deal with issues that come as a result of having to do with transportation. We are also very focused on trying to bring services to the district that are addressing any kind of mental health issues for our students. We are responsible for the Walk for Success, the community education, the parent volunteer programs, and the criminal background checks that entails. Policies, regulations, which we'll be sharing with you in a little bit, and having to do with elections, as most of you that just were elected were working with Ms. Lujan in that capacity. We also have the oversight of the school nurses, anything having to do with having a healthier team for SISD. We work very closely with representing the district with the military and activities or any issues related to military. We work closely with that and student engagement. Events, we have the emergency operations, keeping SISD safe, the marketing of the facilities, parent community concerns and complaints. That's the fun stuff that I usually deal with. And we work with the climate survey, the foundation and scholarships, the behavior coordinators at the campus level, discipline, code of conduct handbook, which is a job in itself. And we work closely with projected enrollment, the boundaries and adjustments, transfers and overflows, which we have greatly reduced, and district-wide pre-K registration and tuition, the YWCA before and after school activities, and the academic compliance, school attendance, truancy, make it count, and come to school every day. I am sorry the list is so long. We had it a little bit shorter, but Ms. Macias wanted to make sure you all knew that we did a lot more than what I had on the list. So with that, thank you.
Do y'all have any questions for administrative services? Okay.
Next, we'll have Ms. Lucy Borrego, and she will discuss curriculum and instruction. She is our Chief Academic Officer here in SISD. Ms. Borrego.
Good evening, Board President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, and all of our guests here tonight. I thought mine was the fun department, so no, it's not. You're saying it's not. Okay. Curriculum and instruction, very blessed to be in this department. We oversee all of the academics in the district. We do the curriculum for elementary and secondary. We do teacher and administrator training and staff development. We do school improvement, the school improvement officer. Also, all of the IOs, the instructional officers, are under our department. Win Academy, we also do all the training for Win Academy, oversee, work very closely with both elementary and middle schools with the Win Academy. We were very blessed this year. It's our first year, we're ending our first year. TA awarded us the ACE 21st Century Grant, which partners us with the YWCA for the after-school program, and it's a $7.5 million grant over 5 years. We oversee that. Also this year, we got the opportunity, UTEP received the US Prep Grant, and they asked us to partner with them, and so we oversee that. We're working with them, and it's a residency program for student teachers. We also oversee all the student teachers and their placements and the schools. The departments under curriculum and instruction are bilingual and ESL. This year, we're launching dual language, 2 pilot schools. Bridge Camp started yesterday, and so we're launching 2 of those. We also oversee grant services, the special education services, research and evaluation, and state and federal programs. Under state and federal programs, some of the big things that fall under that is the mother-daughter and father-son programs, response to intervention, Latino literacy, and the migrant program. We also work on the master calendar for the district to ensure that we're responsible when we are training, scheduling training for the entire district so it doesn't overlap and we're not overburdening our teachers and our administrators.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Borrego? Also, I don't know if you want to touch on the Content Advisory Committee, Ms. Borrego?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So under curriculum and instruction, we have content advisory, and what we do is that we bring teachers in from every single school, specialized teachers, and we bring them in, and they train, and they have input in the curriculum on how we are going to share the curriculum with the school, make sure that the teachers are in agreement. They get feedback from their school, so we have a representative from every single school, and we do it in elementary, middle school, and high school. And they're voted in by their staff, and I mean by their school. And so what they do is they come in, and every 9 weeks, and they work on the curriculum, and they have input. The teachers have input on what SEs are going to be taught, when, what's going to be taught at a certain time, so that teachers feel comfortable that the pacing is on point and that we are being able, and also creating the checkpoints and the assessments for the students so that we get ready for testing in the spring.
Yeah, and that's important. I need everybody to understand that, you know, years ago, the way it was done, decisions about curriculum and instruction was basically made from this building here, whether it was the assistant superintendents, whether it was, I forgot what they were called in the past, you know, directors. And I said, no. The decision needs to be made from the campus, so let's start these different content advisory committees. If it's about a grade level, let's say 3rd grade, math, 3rd grade teachers from every single school, they come in, they meet, and they discuss what they want. They're telling us what they would want to do. And to be honest and frank and honest, sometimes they don't even agree themselves, you know, they don't agree themselves, which is fine, you know, healthy discussions, you know, but they're guiding us on what they need at the campus instead of the other way around, where, oh, we went to a training and we heard this individual come and talk to us. Here you go, teachers, we're going to do it. No, we flipped it where they're the ones guiding us and telling us what they want.
And the cool thing about that is that when we first started, the IOs were leading them. Now the IOs, the instruction officers, just facilitate the meetings. Teachers have really taken responsibility and ownership, and they take it very seriously. It's really cool to watch because they know what needs to happen in those classrooms. It's boots on the ground, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Borrego. Any questions for Ms. Borrego? All right, next we will have, let's see who's next. Elementary and secondary. We have Ms. Retana, Ms. Zapata Farmer, and Ms. Grose. Ms. Zapata Farmer is over elementary schools, Ms. Cindy Retano pre-K and middle schools, and Ms. Grose is over the high schools.
So good evening, President Nájera, members of the board, and Dr. Espinosa. As was mentioned, I am over elementary schools, 23 of them, with number 24 opening this July, and we're very excited about that. as we work in tandem together, the three major areas that we work with on a daily basis in our schools are leadership development with our principals and administrators and their leadership teams, accountability, and school systems. You know, when we're in schools, we can be there to assist and facilitate and guide principals and their leadership teams and even teachers, or we can be in there on a daily basis to conduct classroom walkthroughs and provide feedback, help with coaching sessions, and looking at school systems. So those are some of the things we do on the elementary side as well as the middle and high school side. The other area that I am responsible for are advanced academics and college readiness, which the two areas for me include gifted and talented for our district and our UIL academic competitions, along with RoboCom and Destination Imagination.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, and members of the board. As Elisa Zapata Farmer said, I do oversee middle school campuses and K campuses, which is this year will be 15 campuses. So in addition to that, let me give you a focus at the middle school level. Our principals focus on giving opportunities for advanced academics at the middle school level so that students no longer are waiting for high school to take advanced academic courses. And with that, there was an emphasis on offering more Algebra 1 at the middle school level. And that is extremely important because if you look up any research from College Board, one of the #1 indicators of how successful a student is in college and how they complete a college degree, an indicator is if they took Algebra 1 in the middle school grades. And so that's been a big push in the district. And I'm happy to say that every year our sections at the middle school level for Algebra 1, in which our students earn high school credit already, increase every year. And again, as I review master schedule for next year, they are increasing again. And so along with that, of course, I work directly with the principals to drive and monitor instruction.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. As everyone stated, we work with our principals in our different areas. I work with the 6 comprehensive high schools plus our 2 specialty schools, which are our early college standalone school and our option high school Keys Academy. I'm very proud of the work that we've done with the advanced academics. We have double the amount of dual credit opportunities, free college credit courses that our students are able to take throughout the years and during the summer. In fact, right now we have our dual credit summer academy running at El Dorado High School, and we had it for 4 years. And these students walk out with up to 6 hours of those dual credit courses. We will be opening 3 early college high schools next year, with all of our high schools now having early college component within their schools. And our advanced placement courses are also have double at each of our schools. We continue to support instruction at a higher level to ensure that we continue to provide those endless opportunities that Socorro is known for. I also oversee our guidance and counseling department, and with that, I'm very proud of the work that we have done to support mental health and services that we can provide to our students and to our staff. Career and technology also is one of those departments that I oversee, and with that, we provide 6 advanced academies at each of our high schools. Each of those academies has a specialty that kids can focus, whether it is a law focus or health or public service. It all depends on their interests, and it's based on a selection process that they go through at 8th grade. And then we have the advanced academics, as I mentioned.
Any questions for any of the 3 ladies? Anyone? Now, I do want to emphasize this last bullet here, early colleges. Ms. Cruz, I don't remember the top of my head, but this past Saturday we had Socorro High School that had their graduation at 9 in the morning. From that early college, how many students, do you remember the number? Was it, what do I want to say, 60-something or 70?
Yes, sir. We had 67 students who earned their associate's degree at the same time, before they earned their high school diploma, because EPCC had their ceremony before us. So we were very proud of them.
Yes. And that was the first cohort. And 4 years ago, we decided, you know, in my head, what I was visioning for our school district, and now it's happening. It's pretty amazing to see. Every single school is going to have an early college instead of just one mission early. And 4 years ago, when we started at Socorro High School, I'll never forget, we were at that celebration. These were incoming 8th graders to our early college at Socorro High School. One student says, "I am proud to say that I am the first student from my family attending college." That, my friends, sent a loud message to me, and now fast forward 4 years later to have the number that she just said. We decided we wanted to start it at Socorro High School, and now we've opened up one at Americas, one at Montwood, and now it's going to be happening at El Dorado and Eastlake and Pebble Hills High School. So that is pretty amazing to see the first cohort graduate, and now every year there's going to continue to have a cohort. So thank you, Ms. Grosse. Couldn't do it without your help. You know, it's pretty amazing to seeing those students walk that stage with associate's degree. So that's pretty powerful. So thank you. All right, next slide. Facilities.
Espinosa,
Yes,
President
ma'am.
Nájera, if I may ask a quick question, and this might be for Ms. Grosse or Dr. Espinosa. In looking at, and I know we've discussed this before, but in looking at our students that graduated from Mission Early College, from Socorro, and again, as we were looking at the programs this weekend on graduations, on scholarship opportunities, and how much our families, and I know you've shared this with us before, Dr. Espinosa, but how much money are we looking at, más o menos, that we've potentially saved our students and our students' families because of the programs we offer?
Yes, good question. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Escobar. I believe our students in Socorro, as he said, over $9.5 million in college tuition. $9.5 million. We will be one of the few districts across the state that has an early college high school in every single comprehensive school. So it's, you know, it's a great opportunity. And again, well, what's the difference between Mission Early College High School? Some students don't want to attend Mission Early College High School because they want to participate in the band or the football team or you know, cheerleading. Well, now they have that opportunity. So thank you for that question, Ms.
Thank you, Dr.
Rodriguez.
Espinosa.
All right, Mr. Einton is facilities and planning.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Mr. Blanco is passing out a little flyer for you, and that'll be I'll get to that in a minute. But facility and planning consists of 3 departments. It consists of facility and construction, maintenance and operation, and child nutrition. You saw a lot of these people. I've got 3 tremendous directors, Gabe Crespo, David Carrasco, and Shelley Chinoski. You saw a lot of them in action this weekend, putting on the graduations and putting that together. That's just one of the projects that we do each year. But facility and construction is basically, Mr. Crespo oversees the bond program. And we're a little bit unique compared to the other districts. We do it in-house. We do it with approximately about 8 people. Our neighboring districts hire anywhere from 10 to 25 people at a cost of anywhere from $10 to $15 million. So our bond program is ran internally and overseen by our staff. Child nutrition is a large program that basically oversees all of the meals and breakfast, lunch, and supper. Some numbers, and I'm sure you've heard these. The breakfast meals that we served last year was 5,088,510, averaging about 28,269 a day. For lunch, we served 5,105,537, averaging about 28,364. And then we have a supper program serving 174,854, averaging about 1,100 meals a day. So, like I said, facility and planning consists of operations, and operations, maintenance and operation, is the custodial, anything that has to do with maintenance of our existing facilities, upkeep, grounds, repairs, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, special system, fire alarms, PA systems, and that type of stuff. The next item is procedure for selection of professional services and architect. Mr. Blanco passed this out. I just wanted you to have this. This basically is what we gave out for our 2007 bond program. It gives all of the policies and the delivery methods and the procedures that we follow, a step-by-step procedure. On the back cover, there is some important facts about we keep it local and we spread the work, but we also, there is prohibitions on lobbying and solicitation. And that starts with when the board approves us to go out and solicit for a project. And it continues all the way through the project until the contract is signed. We have one of those projects out on the streets right now, the new combo school. You know, so that is covered under this policy. The Bond Accountability Committee, we meet with them quarterly, give them an update on the status of the bond, similar to what I do monthly to the board. And we have one meeting coming up this next Wednesday, next week, and we'll be touring Cactus Trails Elementary School. The bond program. I won't go through the total list of projects, but you know what's covered in it. But we are just a little over a year and a half into the program, and we've been designing a lot of schools and a lot of projects. This summer we'll start construction along with 3 of the major high schools, Socorro, Montwood, and El Dorado will start construction this summer. We will also start construction on the 16 auxiliary gyms at the 16 campuses. And this is a program that we oversee, and it's we always adhere by the promises made and promises kept. So we also will be looking at the new combo school. It's already been mentioned. And then this Friday we will meet with the architects on our new SAC, this number 2 SAC. We'll have a kickoff meeting to start that project. We also do additional work other than bond program work. We've got a lot of roof projects underway, kitchen upgrades. We work with school zones, school flashers. We do furniture upgrades. We're working on Benito, Helen Ball, Shook, and Cactus Trails, of course. And then we're doing, as Mr. Ressa said, we do the Paso del Norte and the Antoine transition. Thank you.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Iington. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Iington? I would like I would like to add, Mr. Iington touched on it briefly, but on your back cover under prohibition on lobbying or solicitation, please read this, please follow it. No firm that is submitting a proposal for the district can contact or solicit or lobby any staff member or board member. And if that were to happen, notify the superintendent or myself, because that could disqualify them from the proposal. This saves us and them from any kind of trouble. So it is, and I've never had it happen because they do sign a statement that they know these consequences, but just to be on the safe side, just to be aware of. Thank you, Mr. Arrington.
Thank you.
Mr. Ressa, Financial
Well,
Services.
we know him.
So with respect to financial services, it's really separated into three separate departments. We have budget, purchasing, and business services. Under budget, which is under the direction of our Director of Budget, Susan Olson, we have the payroll and the budget accountants. With respect to payroll, we receive information from the Human Resources Department of who to pay and what to pay. That's part of our separation of duties to make sure that we can prevent fraud, so to speak. So we process the payment on our scheduled pay dates. In addition to that, we also provide employees with assistance if they intend to retire. The payroll department holds 2 seminars, one in the fall, one in the spring, providing them information about what their projected annuity would be, and just also give them other information as well. We also do budget amendments, so the budget accounts work with the schools and making sure that their budget transfers are completed timely. If they cross functions, we have to set it up and work with the superintendent's office to make sure it's submitted for your review and your approval at our regularly scheduled board meetings. Also, with respect to the purchasing department, that's under direction of our Director of Purchasing, Mr. Sam Garcia. We're talking about approving purchase requisitions that are submitted by campuses and departments. We'll also review their contracts to make sure they're legal. As Mr. Blanco stated, we work with his firm to make sure that legally everything's in order. We also look and submit and create bids and proposals for services or supplies that are needed by the school district. We make sure that we adhere to state policies and procedures concerning procurement. We also review contracts. I also want to state that our purchasing department has received the Texas Association of School Business Officials Order of Merit for purchasing for 8 years in a row. So it's a tribute to the purchasing department. We're pretty proud about that. Then with respect to business services, that's under direction of Mr. Rene Vargas. He's a Director of Business Services. We do accounts payable where we pay our vendor. We try to pay them timely, as well as process certainly other expenditures that are required. With respect to travel and so forth, make sure they make the arrangements and pay the hotel, the airfare, and so forth. Our staff accountants do the accounting for the district, particularly for the general fund, grants, internal service fund. Title I has their own accountants that work under Dr. Starkey. And then we do finance operations support. These personnel make sure that we do our wires for payroll. We get wired to the Wells Fargo so our employees are paid promptly and correctly. We do wires for any kind of expenditures that are required with respect to construction, or we wire the money that's required by the TRS for the deposits that we do on a quarterly basis. Also, we have certain awards. We have certainly with the Association of School Business Officials, we have the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. We're pretty proud about that. That has to do with our CAFR, our Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Also, the Government Finance of Officers of America and Canada, they provide us with their Certificate of Achievement. And then finally, we have 3 transparency stars that are submitted, that are awarded by the Comptroller's Office. So there's no school district that has 4. There's only, I think, 4 school districts in the whole state of Texas that has 3, and we're one of them. So we're pretty proud about that. So anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. So are there any questions with respect to the operations of the finance department? Yes, sir.
How often do we pay the employees?
We pay them, well, it depends. The hourly, we pay them twice a month. Professional teachers will pay at the end of the month.
So the teachers are paid once a month?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's the last day of the month.
Last work day of the month.
Last work day of the month.
Yes, sir.
Last work day of the month.
Why are we paying them once a month?
We've done that since I've been here. We've always paid them once a month. It's a lot of work with respect to processing the payment and so forth, especially when they're doing extra duty pay or they're doing special assignments. We've got to make sure we get that information. We need at least 2 weeks of lead time to process that. And it's manpower as well. The more we do it more quickly, the more manpower is needed to process that and to be done correctly.
Questions for Mr. Ressa? All right. Thank you, Mr. Ressa. Next is Human Resource, Mr. Campoya.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. The Department of HR is separated into 5 different areas. The first area is under Support Personnel Administration, and that director in charge of that is Selena Stiles. So she handles compensation for all employees. Also position control to make sure that, we have a handle on positions, make sure there's no administrator that tries to sneak in an additional position, so we have a control on positions. And then, of course, to keep us in compliance with the Department of Labor by using the time clock for at-will employees that are not exempt from overtime. The other two areas are elementary and secondary staffing. Elementary staffing is handled by Angelica Herrera, and secondary staffing is handled by Alba Chavez. Basically, they staff the schools with teachers, with any employee that is based off at a campus. They also handle certifications, so they make sure that any employee that is required to have a certification does have a certification to qualify for the position. We are also in compliance with our regulations that we have with the staffing formula for each campus, depending on the enrollment for students. Then our fourth director is under employee relations, and that is Mr. Thomas Rettlinger. That is the complaint department per se. He is responsible for grievances, for complaints, but this is where the Public Information Act and Mr. Steve Blanco touched on it a little bit, where he assists us with any public information request, which we refer to as an open records request. That is handled in HR under Mr. Thomas Rettlinger. He also does employee investigations when it leads to litigation or to an EEOC complaint, for example. That is the area that we take care of. And the last one is employee benefits and risk management. In other districts, those two departments are in finance. Here in Socorro, we have benefits and risk management under HR. And of course, that is all of our employee health benefits. We also take care of risk management in that area. Any employee that gets injured, they do take care of that under Mr. Carmona. And then we have the safety. We have an employee that goes out to all campuses to make sure that our campuses are in compliance with the fire marshal, making sure that our employees are safe as well. And we have the employee attendance and leaves of absences under employee benefits risk management. And in a nutshell, that is HR.
Any questions for Mr. Campoya? All right, thank you, Mr. Campoya. Next we have let's see, Mr. Escobar, Public Relations.
Good evening, President Nakara, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. As Dr. Espinosa mentioned, Daniel Escobar, Chief Communications Officer, and I'm honored to lead our creative team of professionals. We have graphic artists. Under multimedia production, we have 2 videographers, a photographer. We also oversee and manage the district's social media. A few years ago, we ventured into social media, have the largest following amongst public school systems in El Paso and probably in a wider region as well. Our team does amazing work. We also oversee special events, Teacher of the Year, State of the District, a number of events throughout the years. Student Employees Awards and Recognitions, primarily that's our board honors and board recognitions. Our last meeting we had some 200 board honors students that come in. Every month we'll manage those and bring them in so that they can receive recognition before the board. Also a big part of my role, specifically mine and Christy Flores, who works on our team, is media relations, managing media, both promoting the district for positive news, but also receiving and working with them on calls if there's anything of question that they have. And on average, we receive 20 to 30 calls from the media every month. Some of those we handle in a 5-minute conversation. Some of them are days of research, coordinating interviews, follow-up, and such. Also, Maya Kirtley, who's also on our team, she oversees our Partners in Education, and I will confidently say it's strongest and the best Partners in Education program in the city. We have over 300 partners, a lot of it due to her work and the relationships that she builds with our businesses. Our target audiences are basically stakeholders, parents, students, employees, volunteers, taxpayers, our businesses, governments, and then again listed there are the media. Our goals: maximize electronic media resources to improve reach. That again was our venture into social media, utilizing free outlets to make sure that we are proactively getting our news out there. Become the primary source of accurate and timely information that impacts SISD. Again, with the advent of social media, information is quick, and it's coming from various angles. So our goal is to build a relationship of trust with stakeholders so that they know they can come to our feeds, look at our newsletters, our website to get accurate, timely information. And then again, encourage open, consistent communication amongst stakeholders to inspire trust in the district. That's our overall goal in everything that we do. And one thing that I failed to put on there is marketing. Dr. Espinosa talked earlier about an environment of choice. So marketing has become a major part of our function, and something that I'm very proud of is with the level of professionals that we have, all of that has been done in-house. Other districts, other organizations are hiring agencies or hiring consultants. All of that has been done in-house and will, at least for the foreseeable future, continue to be.
Ms. Nara?
Yes, sir, Mr. Guerra.
Mr. Escobar forgot to mention one important thing. Can you let the new board members know and the rest of the audience about your accolades that you all received recently?
So, thank you, Mr. Guerra. About a month and a half ago, our team was recognized with the Texas School Public Relations Association Platinum Award for Best Overall Comprehensive PR Program. And a major part of that was the Endless Opportunities campaign, again, implementing a lot of the vision of things that Dr. Espinosa had brought to us, ideas of stand and deliver, keeping our students here. Implementing that vision really brought that recognition to our team. And a few weeks ago, we were recognized at the national level as well with a gold medallion, which was one of only 2 districts in the country to include our country and Canada, recognized for the best overall comprehensive PR program.
Any questions for Mr. Escobar?
President Nájera.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Escobar, I just wanted to say I honestly didn't expect to see the pictures for graduation up so quickly. A friend of mine was asking, I said, yeah, I was showing her the website and saying, look, you just click on the camera, that'll take you to here, and I'm sure within a few days the pictures will be up. And I was pleasantly surprised that the pictures were up. They looked amazing. Thank you all and all the departments for everything that you do for our district. Again, graduation ceremonies, we're still a little tired, recuperating, but you know, seeing the excitement in some of the pictures and them being so readily accessible already. Again, I know a lot of people in the audience, anybody who participated in graduation ceremonies, you know, they're looking for those pictures, they're looking for their kids in those pictures. So thank you, and again, thank you so much for getting those up and available for everybody to be able to enjoy and see so quickly after graduation.
Thank you. We do have a great team, and while we were in between, some of us resting between graduation, Cesar, Acavius, Andy, Christy were on their feet outside taking those pictures to try and capture as many moments as possible. They started downloading and going through them Sunday. So they know how important it is to our families, and we're committed to get it out as soon as possible. So thank you.
I know, and we do, and we also like to, you know, we really do appreciate you photoshopping and making Mr. Guerra look younger. We really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. Next, we have Mr. Reyna, from our Technology Services, Chief Technology Officer. Mr. Reyna.
Good evening, Mrs. Nájera, President Nájera, and also Dr. Smith, board members. I'm honored here to represent my team in cabinet, and I'm humbly going to represent every one of them. We have currently Ben Russ, who's in charge of the infrastructure in our district. We have a robust infrastructure in the district. He has a team of probably 15 individuals in there. He's in charge of the network, the panic buttons, the cameras, the sound system that is going around here at the board meeting. We also have Oscar Dominguez, who currently resides at the Patent Center. He's responsible for the NOC there. Every software package that every teacher uses, that everybody uses in the district, he's responsible for that. He handles over hundreds of servers over there. He's also responsible for the VDI computers that are at every single campus. We have Mr. Mike Zunovich, who is responsible for the data at the district, the finance and student software. He makes sure that it's running and functioning every single day. And this year we had an amazing year where we weren't down maybe once this year as far as Tyler was reserved and all the other software that we have. We also have Liz Rios, who's responsible for all the developers here in the district. They develop such as the contracts that we receive online. She also is responsible for special projects that we have, such as the cameras and the bus systems that track all our kids across the district. She handles those situations. We have Ms. Miranda, who I see her here. She's the gatekeeper of the software for all the student data and every piece of data that goes across the district. She does an amazing job, and she's one of our great leaders that we have in our department. We have Ms. Marcy Sparks, who coordinates all the librarians who work across the district. She makes sure that, one, that our websites are up to date with all the librarians, make sure that all news are delivered to all the librarians. She also handles the Comic-Con events and the book Blue Bonnet events that happens every year. She also is an amazing leader. We have Mr. Miguel Moreno, who takes all the technology that we have across the district and makes sure that we train our teachers to do a fantastic job. We want to make sure that teaching doesn't end 8 to 5, that once they go home, the technology is used and learning continues. And we have Mrs. Tricia Dominguez, who's also another amazing leader. We invest probably on federal grants. We get around $12 million every 5 years. She is responsible for bringing those funds here every year. And without her, all the amazing things that we do in our infrastructure wouldn't be possible. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Reyna? Anybody? Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Thank you, sir.
I hope I did it fast enough, Lily, because the city told me to be fast.
All right, next, one of our internal auditors, Mr. Joe San Miguel, is joining us today. So, Mr. Joe San Miguel.
Good evening, Board President Ms. Nakara, Superintendent Dr. Espinosa, and board members. My name is Jose San Miguel. I'm one of the district's internal auditors. The district has 2 internal auditors. Ms. Carmona was unable to attend today's meeting. Ms. Carmona is the auditor. She conducts audits of curriculum and instruction program, and I conduct audits of the financial programs. We do work together on some audits when necessary, so we do work together. Our job performance is done by the board, so we are evaluated by the board every year. We report to the board. Once we complete an audit, we send it out in the Friday packet, and we also present it at the board committee meetings. We have a fraud, waste, and abuse hotline. If somebody has a concern, they're able to contact us by email. They can call us, and they can send us a letter. When we do get a concern from an employee, from somebody in the district, we do report it to the board in the Friday packet. Thank you. So,
anybody have any questions for Mr. Joe San Miguel?
President Nakara and
Yes.
Dr. Espinosa. Mr. San Miguel, when we're talking about the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline, is that completely anonymous when it comes into the district? If it's reported by somebody from within the district, somebody from out of the district?
only the letter, only by mail. Email is not anonymous, and also the phone is not anonymous.
Okay.
Once we change systems on our phone system, now we have caller ID on all our phones, so we haven't gotten that changed yet.
Okay.
Just to add to that, the board, normally most school districts only have a financial auditor. The board decided 6 years ago to also hire a curriculum auditor to go over all of the curricular instructional programs to make sure that we are following all rules, whether it be attendance or the curriculum in our schools. And so that is taken care of by Ms. Carmona. If a board member has a concern about a program, it is decided by the entire board what scope the auditors will look at. And so if you do have a concern, you can bring it to Dr. Espinosa or myself, and it can be voted on by the board to have the auditors look into a system. But they do have a schedule of audits that they perform every year. Any questions for the auditors?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. San Miguel.
This last part, our board meetings are scheduled on the third Tuesday of each month, with the exception of whenever it interferes with intercession, whether it's the spring intercession or fall intercession. Then we'll go to the following Tuesday. You are receiving your weekly packets, correct? And you will be receiving the training on accessing everything online as well. We do the superintendent's evaluation. Mid-year, we do just a formative, and then the mid-cycle. And we will, when it's time for the evaluation, we will go over the evaluation. It is based on our strategic directions, and it's all outlined of what expectations are for the superintendent. We've gone over most of this. You know, if you have a request for information, that goes to myself or Dr. Espinosa, or you can make a request to Claudia as well. We do ask, you know, that if you have a question for cabinet, that's fine, call cabinet. But if you're going to be visiting campuses or district offices, we do ask that you make an appointment to do that. We want our principals, our directors, focused on their responsibilities. And if they know that a board member is coming, they're going to drop everything. And we want them to have that time to focus to their responsibilities. And if a board member wants to visit a campus, they're more than welcome, but we do ask that they give advance notice to the principal and Dr. Espinosa. The previously provided information is your School Board of Education requirements for the trainings. Claudia gave you all policies of all of our local governance policies, our team operating procedures, and the last 17-18 annual report. Do y'all have any questions?
No.
No? No?
No.
Okay. We will continue. Item 5, new business A, consider approval. Mr. Campoya. Mr. Campoya, if you want to wait, we have several speakers on this item.
Okay.
Okay. Consider approval of 2019-2020 employee compensation plan. We do have several speakers. The first is Lisa Lopez.
I'm Lisa Lopez, a 23-year veteran of teacher in the Socorro Independent School District. I am currently the librarian at Lujan Chavez Elementary School, and I was an Elite 8 Teacher of the Year last year. I don't know if you remember me, but I spoke to this board 2 weeks ago about giving all employees a 5% raise. I mentioned that we are Team SISD. We all made the district great, and we all deserve to reap the benefits of our hard work. And it was a bit of a rowdy night, and I just wanted to make sure that message didn't get lost. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks since that meeting. The Texas legislature has passed a school finance bill that would give teachers, counselors, and librarians a possible $4,000 raise in pay. It has not yet been signed by the governor. Also in that time, we had our State of the District event in which Dr. Espinosa talked to us about how our district pays for our health care, much more than our other districts around, and we greatly appreciate that. But both of those things should not deter this board from considering a 5% pay raise. It is a well-known fact that teachers as a whole are not paid as the professionals that we are. And beyond that, I don't think you will find one teacher who doesn't deserve or need a bump in pay. I have never heard a teacher say, "No thanks, I make plenty of money, I don't need money." But we teachers did not go into teaching to make the money. We go into teaching to make a difference. And we should be recognized and compensated for that. Our district has invested a lot of money in programs, infrastructure, and technology, and it's all important and it's all necessary. And we invest because we care about our children's future. And it's not the programs that make us the #1 district, it's our people. And it becomes It becomes imperative then that the message our district puts out is that we care about our people too. Now is the time to invest in our people in order to invest in our future and continue as a top district in this area. And it's way overdue. I guess my only question to you guys is, why wouldn't you say yes to employees and giving them more money? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Our next speaker is Tommy Hill. I did. We had a speaker on the budget.
How you guys doing? Okay. You guys just got 10% down on your property taxes. They're going down on property tax. You just, we're going to approve an extra 4%. That right there will cover this raise. That right there will cover the whole thing. I know some of you seem to be weighing on the options, but we deserve a 5% raise, $1,500 first-time bonus. We haven't got a bonus. We haven't got a bonus in years. It's been over 20 years, and I don't even know if that's just what they tell me, that we have got a bonus here. We deserve a 5% raise and a $1,500 bonus. We get up and we do the job here. You guys went through 23 different awards that this school district got. And a lot of that, it's from the employees. So I don't see why we can't at least get this 5% raise and a $1,500 bonus when we're worth a lot more than that. Thank you guys very much.
Our next speaker is Veronica Hernandez.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, and board members. I'm Veronica Hernandez, speaking to you as president of the Socorro American Federation of Teachers. At the last school board meeting, we made a salary proposal for a fair and equitable compensation plan for our employees. Socorro AFT did a thorough and extensive analysis of the district's budget and financial status. We based our proposal on the facts and figures from the district, from Mr. Reza, and the official audit of the district's finances. You heard the employees plea for this rightly earned and well-deserved raise and retention bonus last month. Year after year, our teachers buy their own school supplies, work second jobs, pay higher health insurance premiums, and still put in long hours before and after school. Let's not forget our support employees who remain underpaid while overworked. Just like teachers, they are told to do more with less. Today, you as board members, in conjunction with the district, have the ability, the capacity, and the power to do what is righteous and fair. We urge you to vote with your heart, your conscience, and do what's honorable, virtuous, and just. We urge you to vote for compensating our employees a well-deserved raise of 5% plus a $1,500 one-time retention bonus. In addition, the monies granted from the state legislature should be over and beyond this proposal. I thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Our next speaker is Christian Alanis.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christian Alanis. I'm a former graduate from El Dorado High School. I was number 11th in my class, graduated from, I was in the IB program and was able to get the IB diploma, which granted me 24 credit hours in college. And throughout high school and my academic career in elementary and in middle school, I participated in UIL events from band to programs such as C4K, which is a program which allowed me to coach kids in our district through the VAST program. So I bring these up because I couldn't have accomplished all these without our teachers. Many of our teachers work long hours. Personally, I see it. I probably saw my band directors in high school more than my parents in the week, either from morning practice to practice throughout the day to after school practices, competitions on weekends, competitions out of the city, such as in Lubbock or in Austin in state competitions. Many of our teachers work long hours. I see it through my mom. My mom's a school teacher at Carrasco. She's a first grade teacher. I see how much work she does. Either be grading students' work or having to make phone calls with parents even though they're off the clock or out of school. And because of everything I see from our teachers, the hard work they put in school and after school, on weekends, on holidays, and intersessions, this is why I strongly believe that they deserve and have earned this 5% pay increase. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker this evening is Warren Reese.
Good evening, President Nájera, board members, and Dr. Espinosa. My name is Warren Reese. I'm a teacher at Staff Sergeant Manuel R. Puentes Middle School, and I'm a proud parent of 2 SISD graduates. One who will attend UTEP after graduating top 10% in her class at Montwood High School. She's going to study microbiology. My other daughter, she's been accepted to Texas Tech University to get her PhD in economics. I'm not here to brag about my daughters. I do that all the time, okay? I only mention them to emphasize the quality education my daughters receive, just like all the other children in this school district receive from SISD teachers. I'm here to speak to you about the compensation being considered for SISD employees. Last month I attended and listened to the CFO's report and the comments that were made comparing SISD compensation to our neighboring districts. I was very pleased to hear SISD is #1 in healthcare benefits. I was equally displeased and disappointed to see that our pay lags behind. It is only when, as Dr. Espinosa pointed out, the two are added together does SISD come out on top. SISD should lead and set the standard in all areas of employee compensation, pay and benefits. Just as we lead the area and a lot of the state in student performance. SISD waited to see what the state would offer teachers and district employees, and in doing so, allowed a neighboring district to set the standard. They have increased their first-year teacher pay from $48,000 a year to $52,000 a year. That's an 8% increase in their first-year teacher pay. This is a teacher who hasn't even stepped in the classroom yet. By the way, that's about $3,000 more or less than what I make. $3,000 less than what I make with 19 years of teaching experience and 23 years in education. The state has spoken, and SISD is due to get approximately an additional $47 million, 30% of which is $14 million, must be used for employee compensation. I urge the board and Dr. Espinosa to lead the way and adopt an additional 5% across-the-board pay increase in addition to the proposed budget. I'll leave you with this thought. I'm a former military man. You take care of your soldiers. They'll take care of you. You feed your soldiers first, and then you feed yourself. Thank you.
Mr. Campoya?
Good luck.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Ms. Claudia is passing out the presentation that I'm going to present.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I am here to present, like every year, the compensation plan for the school district for the 2019-2020 school year. So school districts, not just us, but every school district uses these 5 areas to try to adopt a compensation plan. We want to be competitive within the market. We want internal equity among our employees. We invest in our employees, maintain our employees, and above all, recruit and retain talent. So this year, administration is recommending a 5% increase off the calculated midpoint, inclusive of the step for employees paid on the teacher or counselor salary scale. That includes teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors. Doing this, Socorro ISD's starting pay will be at $51,449. Comparing it with the other school districts, we will be on top in every step of our pay scale. Now, granted, the other school district salary scales.
Mr. Campoya.
Mr. Campoya, we just heard, I forgot the gentleman's name.
Mr. Reese.
Saying that El Paso will be above us on starting pay.
That is something that we have not confirmed. Hearsay, what they say.
It's on the news.
And I haven't gone to confirm.
And I understand, and I'm not trying to put you on, and I apologize for putting you on the spot. It's just something that we just heard, and you know, we're trying to get competitive. We really are. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't think any of our teachers want to go to El Paso, but
so I'll tell you what I did is, if you look at what El Paso's current rate is $48,300. In order for them to reach what we're going to be paying our teachers at $51,449, they have to give a 7% increase. So right now, what I've heard is they've given a 5% increase. So if they got that 52,000 figure, I don't know how they calculated that. If they're calculating the pay scale, step scale, with the increase off the respective midpoint, they need to give a 7% increase to match what we have. So again, I don't know until they publish their pay scale. That's when we'll be able to find out. Okay. But just to point out, both Isleta and El Paso ISD scales are the current year. They haven't published next school years. Now, touching on Isleta is a little bit higher than El Paso, so for them to reach our proposed new minimum, they would have to give at least a 4% increase to their employees. Okay. Now, this is a linear chart that I've shown in previous school years. Socorro ISD is a red line. So in every pay scale system, you want to have that increment going up and keep it as aligned as you can. So that way you won't have a spike from one year to the next. So this one shows you in increments of 5 years where we stand. And right now, using their 18-19 data, of course, Socorro ISD will be on top. Now, some of the speakers touched on the employee benefits, and looking at our benefits plans, comparing it with the other 2 large school districts in the area, we have the best benefits. And apart from that, we contribute more to the employee's health plan. So you'll see for every plan, Socorro ISD is the beige, tan-looking squares, Isleta is yellow, and El Paso is the green. We are self-funded. For Isleta and for El Paso, that is the 18-19 data, but I got word earlier before I could change the presentation that El Paso ISD's numbers have changed. They have increased. So I don't have it up on top, but just to give you an idea, if you're looking at employee only for TRS Active Care 2, it shows 347. That number will be 417. So all of them have increased. I just got the information right before the board meeting. We're also anticipating Isleta's numbers to go up, but they have not published it as well. Socorro ISD's numbers that you see up there, those are current. The board approved in April for this coming school year.
So our health plan is still great.
That is correct.
Compared to everybody else, I'm sorry, compared to everybody else. Everybody else's
Yes,
health
sir.
plan, but our health plan is, you know,
That is
we're doing
correct.
what we need to do. Okay.
This is including the health plan or the benefits that we pay. As a package, when we present a compensation plan, and this goes even to the private industry, not just school districts, it is a whole-in-one package, including the health benefits. Why? Because we try to take care of employees, of our employees, and try to minimize the cost that it's going to take on them for taking care of themselves health-wise. So looking at our health plan, we pay $6,900. Previous slide was showing you the monthly amount. This is the annual amount. And if you add that to the proposed increase, you could see that a starting teacher would make $58,000, including the health benefit plan. Comparing it with Isleta, Isleta is at $52,08. And again, they haven't announced any change to that, so I'm going by the 18-19 contribution for Isleta. El Paso is at $52.20, so the same thing with El Paso. They have not announced any change to their contribution. Now, looking at the employee and family plan, these are the three different plans that we have each school district. Our premier plan, our employees would pay $740 to cover their family, and that can include a spouse and as many children as they have. Comparing it with Isleta, Isleta will pay, the employee will pay $1,040, and again, that's the premier plan. You have the base plan and the high deductible plan as well, so that you can compare the amounts. And then, of course, El Paso ISD is way higher at $1,759. So just to give you an idea of the quality of our plan that we have for our employees. Now, looking at our median, where we have the majority of the teachers as far as experience, it's between 9 and 10 years of experience. Comparing it to the other school districts, you can see that we are above Isleta by $4,536. We are above El Paso ISD by $5,100. And again, that is 2018-19 data. Once they publish their scales, of course, that will change. We also have the rest of our paid families, which is our support personnel. They will also be, we're proposing a 5% increase off the midpoint for every pay scale. That includes paraprofessional, auxiliary, which we are also including our temporary crossing guards and our temporary cafeteria monitors, our technology, and our administrative employees. In addition to that, administration is recommending a $750 one-time lump sum payment that will be paid to all employees in the categories that I explained earlier. This is something that we're looking at paying at the end of the month, right before Christmas holidays for employees. And at the bottom of that slide, you see all the employees that I presented to you in the previous slide that will be eligible for the one-time lump sum payment. In addition to that, earlier one of the speakers did mention HB 3, which is House Bill 3. And Mr. Reza in his presentation mentioned that we are required to differentiate any teacher that has more than 5 years experience, which would be teachers with 6 years plus. We are proposing that they get an additional stipend of $250 to be in compliance with HB 3. The law, and we checked with Mr. Blanco, doesn't specify an amount, so we did the $250 amount. In addition to all the pay families that I've explained and or presented to you all, we are also recommending an increase to our substitute teacher pay. Our sub-teachers work as hard as any other employee, and they help us ensure that our kids are taken care of when a teacher is absent. So to try to minimize the number of unfilled classrooms that we have throughout the district, we are proposing for the sub-teachers that have 60-plus hours, a $10 increase daily. These are daily rates to go to 75. Degreed substitutes to go to 100 daily. Certified to 135, and long-term to 135. Long-term is any time that they're in an assignment for more than 10 days consecutively. This is a comparison, comparing ourselves to the other school districts. Just like any employer, sub-teachers want us to be paid competitively, so we came up with these figures that, you know, keep us competitive with other districts. I personally have not heard of Isleta or El Paso proposing a salary increase for sub-teachers. And normally, sub-teachers don't get a salary increase every year, so it depends on districts how often they want to provide or can afford a salary increase for sub-teachers. But looking at this slide, you can see that we are very competitive. Now, El Paso ISD, there is a caveat to the 164. They can only be certified teachers. So if it's a sub that only has a bachelor's degree substituting in a long-term assignment, they get $90. They don't get $164. So what we're doing is we're proposing for any long-term assignment to get paid $135. And at this point, that concludes my presentation. Administration is recommending the approval of the compensation plan as presented.
Ms. Nájera?
Yes, sir, Mr. Canada.
Real quick question. For Mr. Reza,
If I
and
may.
I apologize for not being here earlier. I hate to say it, I got my daughter today. I didn't get to see her this weekend, and I brought her with me because I really needed to be here. She's out there running around somewhere. You know, we've been going back and forth. This board has been going back and forth on, you know, I'm happy to thank God, 5%. Wow, about time. That is beautiful. You know, you guys, you know, it's been a long time coming. Our teachers deserve it. You know, this board for a lot of years has, you know, we've had our ups and downs, but we've been a board that has stuck together. So I'm really, really happy to hear that about this 5%. What I need to know is the bonus that we're deciding to give. You know, this board has been going back and forth. We have all week. We've been trying to get this down, trying to figure out, you know, something to give because it's well deserved. It's about time that we're giving. I think the last time we gave a bonus, I was in high school. My dad was here, and it was Dr. Duron. That's how far back. You know. All right, I've already been. You know, I'm going on my 22nd year that I graduated from Socorro High School, and so. That's how long ago I think it was. About 22 years ago was the last time. As a board, I saw the 750, and that was one of the things that, you know, I've said to myself, anything over 500, great, you know, awesome. You know, and we've heard our associations saying the 1,500, and what I need to know is, I'm in a midpoint right now because I know we have to give and take, and we have to do what we have to do. I wasn't here earlier, and I apologize for that again. What is your, where did you come up with $750? Is what I need to know. How did we come up with $750 as a bonus?
So what we're hearing is that El Paso ISD is probably not going to give that $500 lump sum payment that they talked about. They said, because we wanted to make sure that we were competitive, and we give a lump sum amount that was higher than everybody else. So Isleta gives $450, my understanding. El Paso had proposed that they were going to give a 5% raise and a $500 lump sum payment. I'm hearing that they're not going to give the $500 lump sum payment because they can't afford it. Now, their starting pay, from what I understand, is $50,715. That's $784 lower than our starting pay. So we wanted to make sure that we give a commensurate lump sum payment that was higher than what was going to be proposed. But at the same time, realizing that this compensation package is going to cost $18.8 million. And the employees deserve it. We're not saying they don't. It's a significant amount. And we want to make sure that we gave something that we can sustain for the future. And so that $750 represents an amount that certainly is higher than what Isleta has given in the past. I haven't heard what they're going to.
And I understand that. I'm not going off what they're doing. I never want to go off what they're doing. We've always wanted to be separate from them, and like I said, good school districts, we're better, thank God. But, I really don't care what they do. I really want to know is what we can afford and what we can give. And I see the 750, and that was one of the things that we've had our discussions here. And I said, I'm happy with 750. If we could give them 750, I'm happy with that, because as long as my big issue was giving them a good raise. And 5% is a good raise, thank God. Better than 2% or the 2.5% that we've been giving the past couple of years, because we've been, when you come up here, this is what we got and this is what we can give, because we're afraid of what the state is going to do the following year. And we've been doing that for going on 10 years. As a school district, most of these people need to understand is that we had the lowest tax rate. We still have the lowest tax rate. This board has always tried to spend the money wisely, and we have, and doing so, we're getting punished for it by the state. And that's why some of the other school districts are getting more money than we are, because we didn't tax our constituents, our family, our friends. We didn't tax them, and that's what as any board member, as any individual that runs for anything, that's what you always want to do. You always want to hold that money. You never want to tax your own constituents to death, and we haven't done that. And I will thank God that this board and the people up here have held to that. But now, I think our teachers have done and have fought and have done everything that we've ever asked of them, and I've had some discussions, and I understand the 750. But honestly, I'm in a midpoint with what our associations and what you guys are saying. I'm really thinking about $1,000 at least to our teachers and all our employees. I know it's not the 1,500, but I think it's time we took a hit. And I know it's putting a hit on you and your individuals and your employees, the work that you do. But I've been here going on 10 years, and I still got another 2 years to go. I love this school district. It's been great to us. It's been good. We've worked as a family, and every once in a while as a family, we had to tie that belt, and we did that a couple of years ago. We tied that belt because we were taking some big hits, and the state hadn't helped us out. And me, myself, I'm at that place where I say, as a school district and as all our teachers and individuals that are as our numbers, I think we need to meet in the middle somehow. And I'm really thinking that we need to hit 1,000.
And Mr. Gandara, that's why the 750 is a mid-ground. It's the difference between the 1,500 and maybe the $500. And it's something that perhaps in the future we can continue. There's no promises, but something that maybe we can continue. I'm not sure if $1,000 or $1,500 is something we can continue to offer for our employees as a lump sum payment for the future. And part of compensation
I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about now. I mean, I understand that. Every year we're going to have this discussion every year. We're going to have this discussion every year, and I understand that.
Understood.
And I'm hoping now that the following year comes in, that we start negotiating a lot better. That we get more people involved and start negotiating a little bit better to come to a table and come to a consensus where we're not, that our employees and all our individuals are happy. When you stand up there, like right now, and I didn't mean to pick on Rudy when I said good luck, but it's true. I really want to have our, pretty much everybody knowing, saying, hey, we're happy with what they're going to say, because you know what, we came to a table and we all sat down and we did what we needed to do to fight it out and meet a mid-ground where we're all happy. And that's where I'm saying it. I understand. I know there's money in there, and I don't know what you're going to spend it on. That's why we have that rainy day fund in there. And but I honestly, and as myself, I'm good with 1,000.
Ms. Nara, have a question?
Mr. Guerra.
Mr. Arena, from the 750 to the 1,000, how much How much more, Mr. Reza, I'm sorry, not Mr. Reza, Mr. Reza. How much are we talking about financially?
It's about a $1.5 million additional.
Extra, additional?
Yes, sir. To the budget.
To the budget. Well, I make the motion. I make the motion that we do the 5% and $1,000 pay bonus.
I second that motion.
President Nájera,
Ms.
I just
Rodriguez.
want to clarify, and again, if we vote on the 5% and the 1,000, that would still be the additional $250 for the teachers that have the 5 years in addition to experience.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
I have a motion by Mr. Gondeta and a second by Mr. Garcia. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. We will move on with item 5B, consider approval of revisions to policy FDA. Dr. Graham?
Ms. Nájera, and I apologize, I have 20 minutes to spend with my daughter, and I apologize, I really do got to leave, so I have to
Thank
turn
you,
over
Mr.
back
Gondeta.
at 8, so thank you all of you.
Gee, so I get to follow this motion. Ms. Nájera and esteemed trustees, this one of the areas that we work very closely with in administrative services is with issues having to do with enrollment, or registration. And what we're bringing to you this evening is, for your consideration, and approval, hopefully, is some revisions to policy FDA local. And this policy would open the enrollment in the district. So SISD is proposing to open its schools to all students in the El Paso region and provide them with a high-quality education they deserve to be prepared for college careers and life. We do receive several requests throughout the year, or many requests throughout the year, and send back people that get disappointed because we don't have open enrollment. So the proposed new enrollment policy will allow us to maximize existing facilities and give more students access to the well-rounded education that Socorro ISD provides. And this would be education that is delivered in our 49 SISD schools. This enrollment policy will allow inter-district, out-of-district transfer students to enroll in Socorro ISD. For your information, these are the numbers. This is the data that we have regarding the enrollment of students that are not in our district but that belong to SISD. So we have 3,405 at YISD, EPISD 574, claimed 182 for a total of 4,161. Other students that are attending charter schools, to the best of our knowledge, is the figures below, with 802 at Harmony, 61 at IDEA, 285 at Vista del Futuro, for a total of 1,728. FDA local gives the superintendent authority to accept or reject any transfer request, provided such action is without regard to race, religion, color, sex, disability, national origin, or ancestral language. In approving transfers, the superintendent or designee shall consider the following: the availability of space and instructional staff, the student's academic standing, the disciplinary history, attendance records, and the Texas student residency. The district does not charge a tuition fee for inter-district transfers. There's 3 categories for inter-district transfers. Number 1, the employee's children, or we also have the grandparent after-school care, and the open enrollment is what we are proposing. And this gives you the process that we would follow. Pretty much the top one would be, of course, the employee's children. And as you can see, we would all be receiving this request in administrative services so that we can make sure that we keep an eye on the numbers and make sure that we are approving only in the areas where we have space availability. One key element is that transportation shall be the responsibility of the parents or guardians. We will not provide or offer transportation for any of the children under these transfers. The athletic participation would be closely regulated by the UIL guidelines so that participation in UIL competition at the varsity level will all be guided by the UIL guidelines. So residents of Socorro ISD shall be given priority for special programs, and that is so that we will only accept students if we have space available, but the program acceptance will be prioritized for SISD students. The approval process, the transfers may be approved contingent to the campus being identified as an open campus for transfers. To be open campus for transfers, the school must be at 90% or less building capacity. Exceptions will be approved by the superintendent or designee. And the capacity here is to show you more or less how we're doing as far as the enrollment and the projected enrollment. So we're dividing them by the different feeder patterns. And I think you have a copy of it. If not, we'll be happy to provide you with one. This is the Manwood feeder pattern, and we have availability in some schools more than we do in others. And also the same thing for grade levels. Some of our grade levels have capacity in some of our schools, but not in all grade levels. So we would, again, monitor that very closely to make sure that we don't bring in more children than we have the capacity to accommodate at every grade level. This is the East Lake feeder pattern, and this seems to be where we have a little bit more room. And here's the El Dorado feeder pattern. Pebble Hills. Another part that will be also added is that the homebound non-residential treatment services would be the responsibility of the home district, that we would not be providing services for children that need this kind of services. And we will entertain questions. I have with us our 3 experts.
Are there any questions?
Yes, what was that homebound program? How does that work?
That's, for example, a child that is going through an illness and cannot be at the campus because they're either going through treatments or the physicians are saying that they cannot be in the school. They have to stay at home. And a teacher goes to the home to provide services as more or less 4 hours per week for the child at the home. They are homebound. They cannot leave the house except to go to the doctor's or for treatments. And instruction continues so that the child doesn't get completely behind. So all the districts provide that. So let's say that we have a child from EPISD or ISLED ISD, and then the child is enrolled with us, but then suddenly he or she gets sick and is going through radiation or chemotherapy or something, and they cannot be in the school physically. So then a teacher, instead of going from SISD to provide the services, we would have them go to their home campus, their home district, and they would provide the services.
That's a great program. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Mrs. Nahara, I have a question for Dr. Espinosa and Ms. Graham, Dr. Graham. When we're looking at if we approve this policy and we have students that are going to be coming into the district, what is to, like, how are we going to address revoking the transfer if necessary? Do we have something already in place, or are we thinking of having something in place? And I guess what I'm looking at is, I know in looking at the acceptance, we're looking at attendance and discipline referrals and those kinds of things. What if the student is already here in our district and then we're seeing patterns of attendance and discipline and those kinds of things? Do we have something in place that's going to say, okay, this is, for lack of a better term, I guess, a contract? You must adhere to the student code of conduct, you must adhere to attendance, you must blah, 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 blah. If not, we can revoke your transfer at any time. I mean, do we have something in place, or are we going to have something in place?
So the transfer forms already include that language in there about the student being held to that expectation. Ms. Lujan did quite a bit of research with TESB and everywhere else to ascertain whether or not we could terminate that approval during the end of the 9 weeks or the end of the semester. And according to a commissioner's ruling, once we agree to bring this child in, we've got him for the year, school year. We certainly can revoke it at the end of the school year, but we cannot do it in the middle of the school year. That's different from what we have currently in our regulations because right now a student that we approve for a transfer, if they get in trouble in any of those areas, we're able to, or the principals are able to say, you know what, you're going back to your home campus.
But those are our babies.
Correct.
They're still our SISD students. I guess my concern is, you know, this is our community, this is our district, and even if they're a transfer from, let's say, the Montwood area, they want to go to Socorro, or they're in, you know, some of our academies, but these are students that are going to be coming in from outside of the district. And again, I guess that's my concern. If we do decide to go open enrollment, and again, I understand, you know, we're going to look at the campuses that are not at capacity and which campuses can take more students. But, you know, again, with right now the way we're doing our transfers is those are still our kids. Those are still our students. So even if something happens at this campus, they're still ours, and they're going to go back to home campus. But what do we have in place for students that are potentially from out of the district?
So for those students, we're going to first of all be very careful with our screening. And the first screening will be done in administrative services to make sure that the student that's applying for a transfer has a good record of attendance, discipline, and then the principals also have the opportunity to look through that and see, you know, if it's a student, for example, that has excessive absences that's trying to come in the district, but then we do a little research and find out what this child had an illness, he was hospitalized, then that's an okay child, we're gonna bring him in. Now, if it's a student that shows great, attendance, grades, everything, discipline is great, but then once he or she gets here, and then they become a discipline problem. What I want to make sure you understand is that we can't send him back.
Correct.
We have to keep him for the rest of the year. We can certainly put him on and we didn't call it quite a contract. What did we call it? We gave it another name. It was similar to a contract, just letting them know
We would
that.
provide them with a notice of revocation.
There
and
you
that
go.
notice of revocation, we would give them the guidelines that they would need.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. So the notice of revocation just puts the child on notice. If you continue misbehaving and creating discipline issues, then you're not going to be here next year.
And does that put us into a liability for potential grievances or, and I guess that would be a question for our attorney, if we, Mr. Blanco, my question is, if we decide to adopt or to look at this policy and determine that we're going to be an open enrollment district on the campuses that we can accept students on, let's say at the end of the year we determine, because of discipline referrals, because of attendance, because of grades, we're not going to accept you for the upcoming year. We're going to go ahead and say no thank you. You're going to go back to your home district. Is that going to put us potentially at risk of more grievances or being sued?
A lawsuit, no. A complaint, and if within the regulation that's being proposed, that specific issue is addressed. If a student in an out of the district transfer doesn't comply with the code of conduct, district policies and regulations, the application for the following year to continue with the inter-district transfer can be denied. Now, there's also a provision, though, in the transfer process applying both intra and inter-district that a student and a parent have the right to appeal the denial. So sure, to your point, you might end up with somebody being denied and then having to deal with an administrative appeal. But a lawsuit for a litigated matter, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Mr. Morales.
The question I have is the criteria for athletics or fine arts. How does that work? Are they binded to sit out a year, or what are the criteria? What is the criteria?
It would be following the UIL regulations that exist currently. And again, I'm not the expert on UIL, but Ms. Lujan, do you have the information on that?
Yeah, if someone, I'll let Ms. Lujan go up, but if someone is moving for athletic purposes from for sports reasons, for athletic purposes, UIL says that they have to sit for 365 days. So as far as athletics.
How about in the fine arts department? How does that work with fine arts?
If fine arts, like for example, band competitions under UIL, that would apply. I would, and we can verify. Go ahead.
UIL activity.
Anything that has to.
Any UIL activity follows the UIL guidelines. If the UIL has a process also for appeals, a student is required to submit a PAPF form. If they're supposed to be sitting out a year, they can appeal to the UIL. They go to through the process of appeals and for the determination. But at this point, we will follow all UIL criteria and guidelines to ensure that all those students that are participating in UIL and the varsity level are eligible to participate.
And the other question I have is, are they going to be this open enrollment, is it going to be restricted to the campuses that have the openings, or is it possible for them to go to the campuses within the areas where they live? Say we're adjacent to Isleta, where a lot of those schools are within the vicinity of some of ours. Is that possible, or do they have to go to the schools that in the slide we saw that have less enrollment?
The parent would be able to submit a request for transfer to the school of their choice, and it would be a matter of whether or not that school would have the capacity to accommodate that student. The way the process will be is if for some reason we do have some schools that do not have the capacity, we would be able to offer that parent a choice to possibly attend another school in our district that does have the capacity.
Thank you.
Mr. Guerra?
Dr. Graham, this is probably a question to yourself and Dr. Espinosa. Our neighboring school districts, to the left and right of us, Clinton ISD, Isleta, and EPISD, they've been doing open enrollment for years. In Canutillo. How many of our students do we lose a year that go to those school districts?
It was on the slide.
It was in that slide.
We have the figures, but I'm not sure that we have them per year.
The figures that you see here were for the numbers for 2018-19.
There we go.
Now, I will tell you that my own grandkids are in the Isleta district because of the dual language program, you know, so now that we have that program here, it's going to bring back some of those kiddos that have left, I think, because of the program.
I know, in our first year, how many students are we anticipating to receive our first year, roughly?
That's that's $1 million question, you know, but I think every year it will increase to, I don't want to guess, I'm not sure what number, but every year I anticipate it increasing.
And I would say this will help our ADA as well.
Yes.
One of the things I've shared with the team was that at one point, the insurance enrollment posted open enrollment, referring to the medical insurance open enrollment. So we started getting people in administrative services, and we just had those little posters in the front door, and they said, well, we came to enroll because we heard that you have open enrollment. And I said, wait a minute, where did you hear this from? And so she says, you have it posted on the door. And they had just placed them there like the day before, and we already had all these people that were trying to enroll their kids. And so I went over there so the lady could show me what it was that she was talking about. And it was open enrollment, but it didn't say for insurance. So I talked to HR and says, something's going on, we need to take those down. So I think once word gets out, we're going to get, I think we're going to get swamped with kiddos. We turn away a lot of children.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
I have a motion by Mr. Guerra and a second by Mr. Morales. Is there any further discussion?
President Nájera?
Ms. Rodriguez?
I apologize for all the questions, Dr. Graham.
No.
But in looking at the categories, the 3 categories for the in-district transfers, are these in any way like the, and I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are we going to give our employees an option prior to somebody else who doesn't have daycare, or the grandparents don't live in our district? You know, will we be able to rank by priority or by our employees' children and grandparents that live in the area, and then open enrollment, or is it just anybody?
It will be, of course, open enrollment will be for everybody, but right now we will honor the employees' children because that was placed by the Board of Trustees in place a long time ago. If you remember, in 1985, when I came here to this district, we couldn't get anybody to come teach in Socorro or enroll their kids here. And we were begging and pleading, and that's when shortly after the board put in place that we could recruit people to bring their children to Socorro, but in my way of thinking, that has contributed a lot to the excellence in the district because people teach in the district where they want their kids educated. And so we will have prioritized those employees' children. And of course, the grandparents, you know, that's by state regulation or law that we will consider those. And we will accommodate everybody else after that.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Yes, just to clarify for Dr. Graham or Ms. Lujan, so who will have the ultimate decision whether or not they accept a student from outside the district?
The first screening will be done in administrative services, just so that we know that that child if they're applying, say, for example, Answer, and we don't have any room there, then we offer the parent a different school. But if they're applying for a school where we do have room, then we will approve it in administrative services so that it can move on to the campus level. And then the principals will take a look at them and then approve them.
So the principal will have the ultimate decision. Now again, other school districts to the left, to the right, up to the east, to the west, in El Paso, they do have open enrollment. We've been, closed enrollment we don't have open enrollment since it's been in existence. So I just want to make that clear. So the principal will have it goes through here, then it goes to the principal. So I know a friend from Isleta or Clint, hey, Dr. Espinosa, can you get me into this school? It's not my decision. It goes to administrative services, and then it goes to the principal, right?
Correct. And if there is room in that school, but the child, the transfer was not approved because the principal just didn't feel comfortable, maybe thinking, this child's going to create problems, and they deny it, it can be appealed to the assistant superintendents.
Okay.
For reconsideration.
But again, it goes through y'all first, and then the campus. So the superintendent or board members can't, hey, let me get you into this school. That's not the way we work. It's going to work, right?
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graham, but don't go anywhere. Item 5C, consider approval of request for the use of school facilities. Dr. Graham?
This is just for your approval on the Spartan Wrestling Booster Club for the use of facilities. They are going to pay for it.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry, Dr. Graham.
That's okay, sir.
I have a motion by Mr. Guerra and a second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Graham.
Dr. Graham, you can go put the signs out for open enrollment now, again.
Item 6, executive session.
We're ready.
The meeting is to be closed to consider administrative recommendations for principal positions at Lujan Chavez Elementary School, assistant principal position at Bill Seibert School, and director of athletics position under Texas Government Code Section 551.074. The time is 8:02. We are back in session. The time is 8:36. We'll continue with 7, new business. Consider approval of administrative recommendations. Number 1, principal for Lujan Chavez Elementary School, Dr. Espinosa.
Yes, President Nájera, members of the board. Administration recommends Ms. Gina Exasinsri to assume the roles and the responsibilities as the new principal of Lujan Chavez Elementary.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Rodriguez and a second by Mr. Guerra. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. 2, assistant principal for Bill Seibert School.
Yes, President Nájera, members of the board, administration recommends Ms. Cynthia Mercado to assume all the roles and the responsibilities as assistant principal at Bill Seibert.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Cynthia Mercado.
Mr.
Mr.
Mena. I have a motion by Ms. Rodriguez and a second by Mr. Mena. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. And number 3, Director of Athletics.
Yes, President Nájera, members of the board, administration recommends Mr. Jimmy Calderon to assume all the roles and the responsibilities as the Director of Athletic Services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Mr. Guerra and a second by Ms. Rodriguez. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. If there is no further business before this board, we are adjourned. The time is 8:37.